This is the second tutorial on modes. In the first tutorial, I introduced you to the modes of the major scale, and I was talking in the key of C. So every mode was relating to C major, which has no sharps and no flats. In today's lesson, I'm going to go from a specific bass note. I'm going to choose G because in later tutorials I'm also going to have this similar approach from the note G. Instead of giving you all the modes of a specific major scale, I'm going to take a particular key point, a key note, and that's G. I'm going to do the Dorian on G, the Phrygian on G, the Lydian on G, and so on, so that you can see how it's related to other keys. It's also quite an interesting way to practice scales. So the first mode was the Ionian mode, and when we did it in C, it was just C to C. It's just a major scale. So I'm just going to play the scale of G major. I'm going to support it with a G major 7th chord. I'm going to do it up an octave because it's a bit low there. So when you see the chord symbol G major 7 or something's in G major 7, that's an option to improvise on there. So you can be improvising on. I played the 4th there, but I used it mostly as a passing note. The 4th is a little bit tricky. It's not the greatest note. The reason I mention that is because in another mode, which is very similar, the Lydian mode, that is a different note, and it shows you how that is an option, a different option. So that's the Ionian, or the major scale. Probably calling it the Ionian is not really very necessary. The next mode we're going to look at is the Dorian mode. So the Dorian mode is a minor mode. So I'm going to start from G. I know it's got a B flat, that's the minor 3rd. It has a flat 7, that's an F. The 6th is a natural 6. So that's the character of it. I can think of it like that. I can also think about what number mode it is. So I know Dorian is the 2nd mode. So if I know Dorian is the 2nd mode, its parent scale is a tone down. So that would be F major. So it's exactly the same as F major starting on G. It's not F major. The only connection it has to F major is it has the B flat. The bass note is a G. The chord is G minor. Here's the chord of G minor. And here's the Dorian scale. And sounds nothing like a major scale at all. So just referring to it from F major is just a reference point, just so that you know what notes are coming up, but it doesn't sound like F major at all. Then I'm going to do the Phrygian. So the characteristic of the Phrygian was also minor, so we're going to still have that B flat. And it also had a flat 2. It also had a minor 7th, so it's still got that F there. It's also the 3rd mode, so if you think about 3 notes below, a 3rd below, it's E flat. So it belongs to E flat major. And I know that E flat major has an E flat, an A flat, and a B flat. So I could think of it as starting on G with those particular flats, or I can think of the characteristic of it. So here's E, G, Phrygian. And here was a Phrygian voicing which had the flat 2 in it. It's also got a flat 6, which is an E flat. That's the characteristic of that one. Next I'm going to do the 4th mode. The 4th mode is called the Lydian. The Lydian mode is very similar to the Ionian, or the traditional major scale. The only difference is the 4th is raised, so we have this sound. And the chord that would be underneath that would again be G major 7. So you remember I said that you could do that for the 1st mode, the Ionian. So the only difference is that 4th is raised, and the sound would be like this. And there is the sharp 4, or sharp 11 if you're a piano player, that might make more sense. But for a scale that's only got 8 notes, obviously we don't want to go beyond the 8, so we're going to call it sharp 4. Generally, in a lot of jazz scales, when we say Lydian, it translates as sharp 4. So if you hear something that says Lydian dominant, you would understand the Lydian as being a sharp 4, and that's just a very quick way of deciphering the decoding of chords and the scales. I'm going to move on to the next mode. So the next mode was the Aeolian, and the Aeolian is a minor mode, so it's got a minor third. It's also got a flat 7, a minor 7th, it's an F. But the 6th is flattened, so it'll have an E flat. So do you remember in the Dorian mode it was a natural 6, this one's a flat. It's the 6th mode, so its parent scale is B flat major. So it comes from B flat major. It has a B flat and an E flat. That's the key signature of B flat. The chord that would fit underneath it would be a G minor 7th chord. It might have an E flat in that chord as well, which would be a flat 6. So a G minor chord with a flat 6 sounds like that. Or it might just be a G minor chord. Okay. So that's the Aeolian starting on G. The last one is the Locrian. So if we start it from G, it might be more useful to think about what the parent scale is, because it's a very unusual one. I should say this is the hardest, the trickiest one. Now I know that it's the 7th mode. So its parent scale is a major 7th down, which is A flat. A flat major has 4 flats, B flat, E flat, A flat and D flat. So you could think of it as having those flats. You could also think of the sound of the Locrian scale, which has a flat 2 like the Phrygian, a minor third, a flat 5, a flat 6, a flat 7. Or again, you can just think of it as a 7th mode of A flat major. The chord that goes with it is G minor 7 flat 5. And as I said in the previous tutorial, in tutorial 1, it's mostly used in functional harmony. So it's in what we would call a sequence a minor 2 5 1. So that would actually be going towards the key of F minor. So you'd have G half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, which would require the Locrian scale. Then you'd have a dominant 7th chord after that, the dominant of C7, which is the dominant of F minor. So you could approach a cadence, that's the 2 5 1 into F minor, by thinking Locrian, then playing something on the dominant 7th, and then resolving to the F minor. So that's the use of the Locrian. So just to recap, in this tutorial, instead of taking one particular parent scale, such as C major, and telling you all the modes that belong to C, I've taken a specific key note, like G, and I've used that as the starting point for all of the modes. So you can see how each mode works from a single note. That means when you practice your instrument, you could actually take a single note and practice all the modes from that note rather than go up all the degrees of the scale of a parent scale. Hopefully that's made it a bit clearer in understanding modes.